And we're back with another episode.
We're just got into town. Another weekend in LBI, Long Beach Island, our favorite place. What a fun weekend, right?
Yeah, super fun.
It was like a vacation for us.
Mm-hmm.
Really fun.
Because sometimes we go, our family has a place there, so we go all the time. And sometimes we'll go just for like a day or two, but we had like 3 nights, right? 3 nights. And so then it didn't feel like it was rushed. We had a lot of time to like relax there. I love it there so much.
Yeah, it was fun though. We did like a beach day. We did a shopping day.
Your favorite day.
Went to a really good restaurant. We went out one night. We got wasted.
Yeah.
Like
accidentally.
I don't even know how it happened. We didn't even drink that much, but I think we didn't eat that day, but we were both like blacked out.
Yeah, that was you even thought maybe like someone like drugged us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
We still got ice cream and cheesesteaks though.
We did. When we were sitting at the at a bar though, we made friends with people.
Yeah. That's how you know we were drunk.
Yeah, usually we always say like, terrible experiences with people, but we met these 2 guys and we like hung out with them all night. They were cool.
We don't know the one's name.
Yeah, they were from Westchester. It was fun though.
Yeah, they were just sitting next to us. They were really cool guys.
Yeah, we like hung out. Like I was like, this is what people do. They like meet people and be friends.
Yeah, they just are outgoing and talk to other people they don't know and get to know them.
I can't think of like a time I've ever done that.
No,
especially the guys.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that was fun weekend. I went to my favorite shops. I don't really go shopping ever, but once a year I go to there's this like men's store in Long Beach Island, and it's like exactly my style. It's amazing stuff. I love it, and I just go off for one day, get tons of stuff
for one day,
and then we did a fashion show.
Yeah.
Modeled it. Maybe we could post some of those.
Yeah, we could. We have like a group chat with our friends, and we whenever we get something new, we like send videos to each other, and we do a fashion show, and we like explain. So say I got an outfit, I'll put it on and I'll explain like the scene,
the vibe.
Yeah, the vibe of where I'm going in this outfit, what I'm doing when I'm wearing it.
So while we were doing that, like explaining like the vibes of things, you taught me about coastal grandma.
Oh yeah.
So do our listeners know what a coastal grandma is? It sounds like an insult.
No. Zane, have you ever heard of that? A coastal grandma?
Nah, never.
Yeah, it's probably not on his algorithm either.
Okay.
I think it's a very like specific group. But coastal grandma is, like you said, it's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing to me. But it's like a vibe. It could either be aesthetics for decor, what you're doing, or
it's like white linen flowy shirts with like a bucket hat.
Yeah.
And like a glass of
what's
like
that
white
actress's
wine.
name in Something's Gotta Give? The older lady?
Diane Keaton.
Maybe her, or
it's like Martha Stewart.
Yeah. Ina Garden.
Ina Garden.
Like all those bad bitches.
Yes.
Like you're at the beach, you're reading a book, you're drinking wine, you're cooking a nice recipe, and you wear like cozy, kind of like what I'm wearing now, almost. This is like the casual. This is like the
pretty casual.
Yeah.
It's a little more elegant than that.
Yeah, more elegant.
No offense.
No, it's fine. I definitely lack in that department, but
well, you bought definitely a coastal grandma outfit.
yeah. It's just a vibe. I've been listening to coastal grandmother or coastal granddaughter playlists on Spotify. Love it.
Yeah, those are good playlists for sure. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. We had a busy week though. Before we went down there, we went to the city.
Wait, we also found when we were there, we were kind of testing or doing like a little taste tester of different places, and we found a new pizza place on Long Beach Island, and it had Detroit style pizza.
Oh yeah, I was very
tough critic over here.
Very apprehensive to even try it because I don't like the sound of that. Like pizza is like New York, it's not Detroit.
And when you're in like New York, New Jersey area and you're doing a different style of pizza,
what are you doing?
It's like, don't be weird, just do it.
But we tried it and it is on my list. It's on my like top 5 pizza places I've ever had list. It's a little different. You can't really compare it exactly, but you know, it's not as good as like sauce, but It's not as good as Sally's, but
I don't.
it's
It's not as
probably
good.
in my top 5.
It's not as good as like Supreme or
Joe's.
Not
It's
as
like
good.
top 6.
It's not as good as that, but it's something different. So like you said, it's hard to compare.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Really fucking
And the
good.
guys that when we just walked in, the guys that it was like 2 brothers that started it, and they were just like super cool. They were like telling us about it. They were like, I don't know, they weren't like pushy and like they just. I was like, wow, that's so cool. They're like 2 like young guys that just be like, all right, you're gonna start a pizza place. Like, I don't know, it's pretty tough to do.
Yeah.
Especially Long Beach Island. A lot of
It's so
things.
seasonal.
It's seasonal and like a lot of things there. It's the same people go every year, so I think it's kind of hard to bring something new there and have it
Yeah.
work. A lot of new businesses like come in and then they're only there for like 2 years. So for them to do that, I thought was pretty cool.
Definitely. But yeah, so our comedy show, we went to a comedy show in the city, which we've talked about before, is like one of our favorite things to do. But this was like the first time, like I love comedy, and I think that in anything like a comic special or any type of stand up, I always feel like nothing's off limits. Like I think it's okay to make fun of anything. Because that's like the point. Like a joke is, at someone's expense usually, all right? But it's always it's not with malice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about being funny.
Yeah, it's usually like nothing personal. It's just like, especially if they do like crowd work.
Yeah.
It's not personal against the person. They're just using that person to bring up a subject and just make everyone laugh.
For instance, like when I go to a comedy show, I only wear like one gold chain. Because if I had like a couple gold chains on, I could just hear them say, "Oh, Mr. T in the front row." You know, like call me. So I don't put myself out there like that. I try to, keep it.
Well, when we walked in, they were like gonna seat us in the front row, and we're like, "Oh no, we're sitting in the second row." And you saw that with a lot of people as they were coming in. They were like, "No, I don't want to sit in the front row," because you're probably gonna get called out right away.
So in the front row, there was a couple, and it was a young couple, and it was a pretty little girl, young girl. They were probably in their 20s, and then the guy was a taller guy, but he was like a fiery redhead, like fiery red hair. So these comics were cutting into him so hard, one after another, that I legitimately felt sorry for him. And it got me thinking, I was like, I would say that with everything being so politically correct, the only people that like are still susceptible for like public shame and insults are redheads.
Yeah. They
were so hard on them. It was insane. Like they're like, so what's the pubes like? Is he just a total fire crotch?
And they're like,
they're like, oh, it's only our second date. And I'm thinking, I was like, yo, this girl is definitely going to be affected how she feels with what these people are saying. Like it's going to have an effect on her. It was over and over and over again.
Yeah. It wasn't just one comic. It was more than one. And then the one girl was like pretty much, at least she probably did like a 15-minute thing. It was probably like 6 or 7 minutes was on him, and it kept coming back to him. It was to the point where like at the end of the show, when everyone gets up and you're all like, there's a big crowd, you all form a line, you have to go up these stairs. Like when you're walking by him, like you can feel, because we were sitting like right next to him pretty much, you can feel his like embarrassment and that he was uncomfortable, and I was like embarrassed for him, where I didn't even want to like kind of look at him, because I didn't want him for a second to see me looking at him and think that I was judging him, or I was remembered what they said.
And it just felt like it was the first time I've ever felt sorry for someone at a comedy show, because like if you make fun of like Italian people, like you're making fun of like the collective, like stereotypes that are like, broad, like expanding more than just the one person they're kind of making fun of. You're making fun of like a collective people, but this was just one person. They were isolated on him and just attacking him, and does the curtains match the drapes?
Yeah,
and over and over again. And the guy's probably like a little self-conscious,
I'm sure,
and especially like if he was married to the girl for 5 years.
It was their second date,
and he's never hooked up with her. And I don't think he's going to.
I would think for him, he was like, you have to maybe like he'll never go to a comedy show again.
No.
First of all, I said that right
No.
away.
It was brutal, Zane. It was
my
really
hands
crazy.
were sweating. I was so. It was actually, I forget her name. It's Ashley, but I forget her last name. It was she has a podcast that's super popular. It's called
Girls Gotta Eat.
Girls Gotta Eat. Her name's
And she
Ash-
was hilarious. I love her.
She was so funny. I was like, oh my God, if like, I felt like I was like, me and her are best friends.
Yeah, she was amazing, but I felt so sorry for this kid that I was like, I wanted to just be his friend. Like, hang in there, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was funny because after you were like, oh, this is definitely going to affect their relationship. Like if she heard everyone like laughing and making fun of him, maybe it'll like change her opinion on him. And I was like,
Of course, it has to.
I thought the opposite. Maybe she'll feel bad for him and hook up with him.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't know. I think so. Like maybe because if she went on a second date with him, she was already like into him a little bit. I don't think obviously she knew he had red hair, so it didn't bother her.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having red hair.
No, I'm saying so. Like I don't think it would turn her off.
I
think
that,
she might
like,
maybe will feel bad, and then
but
you know,
people
like,
are easily like
pity fuck
persuaded.
'em.
People are easily persuaded though, like social proof. Like if everyone thinks that your girl's hot,
Pete
and you
Davidson.
don't necessarily think she's hot, but everyone else says, maybe there's something to it. Like Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson, yeah.
Now she had all those hot girlfriends, so now Kim K. I wonder what's up with that.
Yeah,
So it's social proof.
yeah.
So if you have the opposite of social proof, it goes the other way too. If
Mhm.
everyone's laughing at you and you're the brunt of all jokes, you'd be like, "Ugh, I don't want to put myself in that."
Right.
And it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But people will fuck you because they feel bad for you. This is a thing.
I don't think it's a thing, Zane.
I think
never
it
heard of
could be. I don't know. I just hope that they're still together. I hope that they like hooked up for the first time that night.
I don't think they did.
Do you
That would
think
be
like
really rough.
I mean, she's definitely like goes to the bathroom immediately after the show, goes into the bathroom, is texting her friend like,
100%.
oh my God.
Oh my
They
God,
just-
I feel so sorry for him. And I was trying not to laugh, but
But it was
it
funny.
was really funny.
And now I feel bad, but like I can't just like not be into him.
Yeah.
Her friend's like, you gotta hook up with him
Yeah.
or else he'll kill himself.
Yeah. But that was a unique experience at a comedy show because I am always all about
God, I just started like holding my phone, and I just turned the volume on like the speakers downstairs all the way up. It sounded like a
was
party or
crazy.
club downstairs.
but I'm always about like anything goes. Like you can make fun of anything.
Yeah.
All jokes are funny. But this was the first time that I was really
You're like, well,
felt
not
compassionate. It was just too much. It was just piling on.
like you said, I think if it just ended a little.
Excessive.
Yeah.
And one after the next. It was crazy. I don't want to talk about this the whole time because I'm getting sad.
Actually,
But,
wait. I have an idea.
Yeah.
I need this for a clip. Tell me like the top like 3 worst things you could do on a first date with a girl. Like top 3 worst activities.
Activities like okay, like dates.
Well, I think that one of the worst activities you could do on a first date, you said first date, is a movie
Movie, yeah.
because you can't talk. The next one I would probably say is maybe a comedy show because I don't think you know each other well enough at what you laugh at. And again, you still don't talk. And
Well,
then,
comedy show's a little different because you could like have something, you could watch it, it's fun and it's like lighthearted, and then like you're not talking during the show, but right after you have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. And then the third thing is anything involving like family. Like if you have like
Yeah.
a family party, come to my family's 4th of July barbecue as like
Yeah,
one,
no
like
one's
early
doing-
in a relationship. People who bring like a girl or boy like around their immediate family like
Right
too
away.
soon, I always think is a really bad idea.
And depending, sometimes I think it's like a beach or like as much as I love the beach, I think that's not a good idea to like a hot beach day because like or a pool because maybe like a girl isn't that comfortable in getting in a bathing suit in front of a guy. It sounds
Yes.
like that's something I think guys don't think about at
No,
all.
you're right.
Especially if the girl's like
And they can't have their hair done. They can't have makeup on.
Yeah,
a pool or a beach is a bad first date.
I think it's and I think it's on paper it sounds good. Like okay, if you're going to the beach at like where you can wear a sweatshirt and have like a glass of wine and sit on the beach, that's different. But a hot beach day or pool day, like it sounds like a good idea. Like, oh, I love the beach. You like the let's go. But like for a girl, she's not gonna say no, but she's not gonna be.
It's too honest. Like
yeah.
bathing suits are too honest.
Yeah.
Like you like an outfit, you could put your best foot forward. Like
And
this
you-
is my outfit. I picked this out. Where a bathing suit is this is my body. This
And
is what
not
I
even
got.
just that, like even if you go to the beach all the time and you're in your bathing suit, but it's different when you one-on-one with someone that hasn't seen you before and you're like that nervous energy. It's just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I think that isn't a good idea to offer a girl. Well, I was going to say if the girl offers it to you, then you can do it. But then I guess that's not fair either. Maybe guys aren't comfortable with that either.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. I wouldn't have thought of that, but
Mhm.
it's absolutely right.
I've heard that with friends being like, oh, that's something with anything to do with like a pool. And they're like, I don't really like.
Because they don't want to get wet either. Like,
And they can't do
you
their
wanna
hair
have your
and
hair
makeup.
and makeup. Yeah.
They're not comfortable enough to be like, oh, let me just put a hat on, you know?
Right.
Not for the like first or second date.
No, I don't think so. But at some point in the relationship, it's imperative to go to the beach.
Of course.
But yeah, so that's pretty crazy. So Zane, I want to involve you in this. I was telling you how like I just found out that I'm going to start teaching wrestling on a weekly basis in at Henzo Gracie, the Bronx Academy. Okay, so I'm going to be teaching wrestling there 2 days a week. Which I kind of got away from teaching over the last couple years, but I'm going to slowly get back into it. And the guy who owns that, I really like a lot. And I just, want to start working with him some. So I'm excited about that. So I told him I'd do it. Then, we exchanged text messages and, worked out a deal. And, he, was saying he was excited for me to get there, blah, blah, blah. Then the next day he texted me, "Hey Kyle, just an FYI, I don't allow spats at the academy. So unless you're wearing shorts over them. If you don't have shorts though, I could loan you some so you can teach the class." And I was like,
Those that don't know, spats are like tights. Leggings.
And I was
Not
like,
leggings. Leggings sounds like girl, but like when guys wear like the tight Under Armour pants.
and I was like, I have shorts, dude. And he was like, okay, good.
I was like, yo, this guy is so scared that you're gonna show up to like this 8 a.m. his well-run jiu-jitsu academy that you're gonna show up in like little Valley Tudo shorts.
Yeah, but that's such a thing because he knows like I'm a wrestler, and that's why he hired me because he wants.
And he
a
knows me
wrestler.
from Henzo,
and he knows me from Henzo's.
where
and at
you
Henzo's,
wear spats.
You wear whatever you want, but at real academies, like in the jiu-jitsu world, spats are so frowned upon. Like people are like repulsed by them, especially guys wearing them. Girls,
Well, that's
I
the
always
thing.
feel
Why
like,
can girls wear
are
them,
allowed
but
to.
guys can't? I'm like, oh, like guys aren't allowed to wear them, but
people
girls
are like,
can.
oh, I don't want to see your balls or feel your balls. I'm like, what's the difference? It's a thin piece of material over your, private area. Shorts is the same. No, it's a thin material. Why are jiu-jitsu people, you could answer this. Why are jiu-jitsu people so repulsed by spats? Not that I would have worn them. I know enough that I would have worn shorts.
Well, because we went to one gym and they told you weren't allowed to in the locker room.
Oh,
What was this?
and that was his gym. Bayside.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why. Okay, so why are gyms so turned off by spats?
Just the balls.
I mean, I don't know, dude. I feel like the last thing you want to know is like, I feel like that's like kind of like the last thing you want to see. Like,
What?
At least like with shorts, like you're covering everything.
Okay.
It's not like as
But, like,
there.
but,
This
like,
you see like the outline.
I don't know, dude. I have so many intrusive thoughts. It's like you just see it. It's like, oh, like I don't know.
Then like when you're like growing, you're like, oh my god, it's touching me. Whereas if they have shorts on, you're like, it's not.
I mean, like I'm like desensitized to like seeing girls like wear spats because it's just like you can just like
Because guys like it.
Right.
yeah, but I mean like girls just wear spats to do like whatever. Like you can like wear spats like
To the
like,
mall,
leggings,
or-
to the
yeah.
mall or anything.
Yeah.
When you see a guy wearing just straight up spats, it's just like, oh, it's like a culture shock. You know what I mean?
It's such a funny thing though, because like you're talking like long spats when you say that, right? That's what I'm
Yeah.
picturing. Where in wrestling, like if you go to a college wrestling room, people are just wearing like
Valley Tudo shorts.
4-inch
Belt Biker shorts.
biker shorts, but pulled up, so it's like high on the thigh, like really showing the.
It's like a
the
full
quads.
coverage, full coverage bikini bottom.
Yeah, and that's at every wrestling room in the country. That's what everyone wears. So I mean, even like a singlet is spats, right? The same thing. And I think a singlet is a bad look for most people. Especially girls. No matter how attractive a girl is, no girl is attractive in a singlet.
No, even if they have like a good body, big
It's
butt.
and most guys aren't either. It's a very not flattering piece of clothing.
Yeah.
It's funny to say clothing.
But it's funny that like I don't know. I always think I've heard that recently. I remember we went to one gym and they told you weren't allowed to wear spats. You came out of the locker room. It was our first time there, and I'm like waiting. I'm like, what's taking him so long? Because usually, if we go to a gym together, he goes in the guys' locker room, I go in the girls'. I usually take longer to get ready, and I'm sitting out there waiting for him to come out. I'm waiting for him to come. I'm like, what the fuck happened? And he comes out, jeans, Gucci sneakers, again, full on winter coat. I was like, what happened? He goes, I'm not allowed to wear spats and I don't have anything. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, some guy in the locker room told me I wasn't allowed to wear them. And we were there just for like.
Actually, I think Zane might have been there that day. It was with Frank Rosenthal.
Oh, that was that day?
I think it might have been. Yeah, I've only been there twice.
Yeah. Yeah. But so whatever. But he got shorts, but it was okay. But it's funny because I'm like, I think it's weird when gyms, I get it, and they're like, oh, you can't wear that. And it's like, but the girls can.
Yeah, I don't know. I respect anything that, like, if it's your gym, you say whatever the fuck you want. Like,
oh, of course.
Make any rule you want. I totally respect it. I just think that it's just so different, the wrestling world and the jiu-jitsu world.
I think
when
jiu-jitsu, I think because with wrestling, there's no crossover between regular people and like high level athletes. Where jiu-jitsu, you have like, you know, a mom of 3 that's there for self-defense and in the same room as, you know, like a professional fighter.
That's 100% what it is. And I never thought of that.
And you can't do, and you know what I mean? That's why I can't cross over. And then they're always like intertwined. You can't make some rules like, oh, if you're a fighter, you can wear it. I remember I'd been at like in New Jersey, I would train at a gym that was like fighters trained there too, but it was mostly, you know, for regular hobbyists. And they would have, like the MMA training would be at like 3 o'clock, 3 to 5, 3 to 4:30, and then the kids class would start right over. So now like you have all these like kids in their like 20s done training, they're wearing the little shorts, no shirt, walking around, and parents are bringing their kids in as a small drink,
right?
Bringing their kids in for a kids class, and these guys are sitting on. I remember I used to be like, I don't even care, but I was like, yo, I would say something. It wasn't even my gym, but I'm like, there was a couches, and they would be in these sweaty, and it was I remember specifically it was a suede couch, sweaty, and these things, no shirt on, like, and they're like, you know, guys in their 20s just talking about things, and then someone's coming in, like a mother's coming in to drop off her 2 like, you know, 8-year-old daughters to try it, and I'm like, yo, you guys can't be here, like. Right. Can't do that, you know. A lot of gyms too, they say like you can't wear a furky, you have to wear a shirt underneath.
Right.
But I get it.
No, I definitely get it, but that's what it is, because in jiu-jitsu gyms, that is a unique thing that you could go to a regular jiu-jitsu gym and just be like a social studies teacher, and you're in there in the same class as like Katlyn and Aljamain Sterling and Marab. Like there's totally most classes just regular people. But then there's UFC champions and, you know, high-ranked fighters in the same class. Where in a wrestling world, everyone's pretty much on the same page.
Yeah.
Same wavelength.
Yeah.
Same goals.
And I guess it just depends. We're used to training at like Henzo's. We're used to training with like, you know, professional athletes. And then at Henzo's, there's pretty much like no rules for the no-gi class. And I think you had to wear a shirt, no tank tops.
I feel like I've seen people without a shirt though, for sure.
Like at the end of
ADCC time a year.
Yeah, maybe not for the regular classes.
Yeah.
But it's funny then they're like no tank tops. I'm like, well, okay. It's like
I hate when someone wears a tank top or no sleeves. That's fucking gross.
I don't like when girls wear
that is gross to me. No sleeves or a tank top, that's gross. Spats, cock and balls, I don't mind. But like sweaty armpits, I mind.
I feel like I get like competitive when a guy wears just spats.
Why?
Why?
Because you're pissed off.
I just think it's like, I don't know. I think it's just like the young kid in me. I'm like, how big's your dick?
Because you think like because he's wearing it, it has to be big because he's showing off.
Yeah, dude.
Really?
Like, you wouldn't wear it if it's small. You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't
Like-
know. I mean, I'm so used to that.
Well, I
I've
think
seen plenty of small dicks and singlets. Most.
I don't know. I feel like you either like wear it because you're like either super secure in your body or you're like an actual professional athlete.
I think
I
you're
think
just
don't
like
care.
just clueless. Like,
Well, if you wrestled your whole life,
Yeah.
you don't know anything
Wrestlers are
different. You're
just
like, what?
clueless.
You know, you do it every day. So like,
yeah. But I guarantee that Gregor has never had anything but like Edinburgh short
literally like
spandex
this, those
at every
one pair.
jiu-jitsu class he's ever been to.
Yeah.
But I feel like
He's
that's
Gregor's listening right now, and that is what he wears. 100%.
I picture
and
him.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that's
I
what he's
picture him
wearing.
going to a. This is what I picture Gregor wearing the tiny little ones that are like way too small for me. The specifically
Mm-hmm.
those gray Edinburgh ones,
Mhm.
and going into jiu-jitsu class where everyone else is training in the gi and they take their gi off and they roll with him and he's wearing those shorts.
I could just picture him doing like side triangles.
Oh, he
And
loves doing side triangles.
That's like
and
his
tight-
number one move, and just that like and sweating like you can't even imagine with the tight spats.
Yeah, he
And,
always
like,
does the triangles in
yeah,
those little
tight
baby.
side triangle.
Yeah.
Right on it.
We gotta like insert like a picture of him down. I see him do it like anytime I see him on the mat. He's
Yeah,
drilling
super
it.
funny. So this kind of dovetail right into our next topic. We went to the Beat the Streets wrestling event. So more wrestlers, a lot of singlets, wrestling. I was so happy to go. We had a friend who gave us free tickets. So we went. It was kind of like a last minute thing, but what a fucking cool experience. It was so fun. Like I saw so many old like former teammates, former coaches, because wrestling is the type of thing like if you are at that level, you were probably a successful college wrestler for like 4 years. Then you were probably a successful international wrestler for a handful of years. Then you coach after that. So it's a lifetime commitment.
Mhm.
These people, like, you know, I talked with Bill Zadek. He's the national team coach at the event. And he won like the NCAA championships in like, you know, I think 1996.
Wow.
So he's been relevant in that world for, you know, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
It's like a lifetime commitment. There was Bruce Baumgartner was there. He won the Olympics in 1984. So, and then
I
world
know.
championships in 1982. So literally 40 years he's been, well, more because he was college before that. So 45 years, like you're in that world. So you see the same people over and over. It was really cool. And then, not to mention the wrestling was just spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Dake, Jordan Burroughs, David Taylor, Yanni, Helen Margolis.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool. What'd you think of the wrestling?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like wrestling's not super fun for me to watch. Especially when it was like Greco. I'm like,
I didn't like
I
that.
totally check out on that. It's fun if I like know the people. Like obviously when like the famous people that go, or I'm like, ooh, I'm like then I'm glued in. But it's kind of the same for jiu-jitsu. I love training jiu-jitsu. I love training boxing, but watching it's pretty tough to do unless I'm like a little bit. I need something to be going on for it to be invested. You know, like I was super into we watched it when we got home, the third Jordan Burroughs match, just because it was 1-1. You know, the first one I was like, when we were there, I was watching it and I was like, oh, cool. It's Jordan Burroughs. So I'm like, oh, I'm excited to watch it. And then when I realized it was 2-2, but you kind of just expect him to win.
Right.
And then when I knew it was 1-1 and then the third round, I was into it. But the girls I'm like into just because I'm like, oh, that's cool. I never really like only a handful of times have I seen like high level girls compete, you know,
Right.
definitely not in person, even on like we watch online and stuff. I just don't see it very often. So it was kind of cool to see. It's hard for me to watch like match after match after match. And like sometimes during the matches, because I feel like they stop and go so much that it's hard for me to keep my attention.
Yeah. There's, I had a few takeaways. Some of like on an individual level, I am blown away with how technical Helen is.
Mm-hmm.
Like she uses her
That foot
feet
sweeps.
like hands.
Mhm.
Like she blocks the heel and like curves her foot in, and her feet are like hands.
Yeah.
She does all kinds of trips and, you know, little throws with like a 2-on-1 or a head chuck in her feet.
Mhm.
It's so impressive to me because she's just so much more technical than everyone. So she's really fun to watch. And then I actually felt the same way about the first match that Jordan Burroughs had, which obviously Jordan Burroughs, probably, best American wrestler ever, but he doesn't give up any position. Like that first match, Marceller never got to his leg. He never got to an underhook, never pushed him out of bounds. His like defense is like the best I've ever seen. It's so incredible to watch.
Yeah.
But that was fun. It was interesting because Jordan Burroughs made his 11th world team. This is probably, we're losing people with this, but, and that is so incredible. That's so crazy. But Bruce Baumgartner, who was at the event, was on 17 different teams. 17 different U.S. titles he won. He has 13 world or Olympic medals.
That's
2 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze in 4 different Olympics. So whenever people like always, Jordan Burroughs is the best ever, I always think, yeah, him and John Smith. I think Jordan Burroughs is, just because wrestling is a higher level than it ever was.
I mean,
but if you look at an overall career,
you're only as good as the level is right then.
Right. I always think I give it to old Bruce. In my opinion, he's the best American wrestler ever. The fact that he won for 4 straight Olympics. Burroughs has been to 2 Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have to go through 2028 and get on the next 2024 and the next 2028 to be on as many teams as Bruce.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Years. But I do think Jordan Burroughs is the best American wrestler ever. David Taylor was there also. That was super fun. He's just so much better than everyone. Again, it was like not super competitive.
The one thing I was like telling you about it there, I was like, I don't really understand about wrestling, and this is just like the outsider point of view, is like the injury time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going at each other.
Oh, yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
Trying to like kill each other. They're clubbing each other, hand fighting. They're going as hard as they can. But if they I jam my finger, stop. You can stop, and they let you rest, and they put tape on your finger, and then you can continue. So I'm like, well, anyone could just say like, and then they get a break.
Or if you're just tired.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, that's the oddest thing to me, because, and then especially when they're like, it's the same as like, I'm sure a lot of times because of what they're doing, they are really hurt. But a lot of times they're like, and they're hurt. The one guy hurt I forget which match it was, hurt his elbow. He's like, and I was like, oh my God, he dislocated it. Like had to have, or something, broke something. And then they took the time off. So now when they're doing that, I'm pulling my phone out and I'm like deep into TikTok. Like I'm not, now I checked out of the match.
Right.
And all of a sudden I look up, I'm like, whistle blows, and his elbow's fine. He's going as hard as he can. I was like, wait, I thought that's the one thing I don't really understand.
It's funny because my whole life I was a wrestler, and I never thought anything like that. It was just part of the sport. Then, when we started dating, I got more into like jujitsu and more into fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember the first time we watched the NCAA championships together, like on TV, you're like, wait, why are they stopping? What's going on right now? I was like, oh, it's injury time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, injury time? I don't get it. And then once you said that, it kind of clicked with me. I'm like, oh yeah, that is like the stupidest thing ever. If there's injury time, like in jiu-jitsu, injury time means you lost.
Yeah.
Like you tapped out.
Well, look at like Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva. You get hurt, all right, you can't continue. It doesn't matter. Or you get sometimes eye pokes are a little bit different.
That's different. Because that's illegal.
But like if someone punches me and I like fall and I put my arm out and I like hurt my wrist and I go, stop. Or if I punch someone and break my hand and can't continue, they won.
That's it. Yeah, the same with wrestling. I feel like if you're in on a leg and you hyperextend your knee and it bends backwards and you blow out your ACL, I mean, you could quit. You could just be like, I can't go anymore and the match is over. But you can't I think it's so just not a good look that you could take injury time.
Yeah, unless it's like a cut. That's the only thing
that would be different. That would be like blood time. And that's even in fighting, they check out cuts.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that's one thing with wrestling where I think jiu-jitsu has it a little, because wrestling, you're trying to kill the person. You're going so hard.
Yeah.
But the fact that you could take a break.
I jam my finger and you can take a break. That doesn't make sense.
It's not good. I wish they would change that. But it was a really cool experience. I'm happy that we got to be around that level of wrestling because you know, it was a big part of my life for a long time, and now I don't really watch a whole lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
It was cool. But the fights, UFC Singapore, such a sick card.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe you stayed awake.
Well, it was just such an amazing card.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the big 3 fights, you know, that we'll talk about the most, but the one guy, I'm going to say his name wrong, is Jack Della Maddalena. He's
Jack.
from Australia. He's
Green shorts.
Yeah, 170 pounder, and he fought the Russian Dagestani guy, and he finished him with a body shot. That guy is someone to watch.
Remember, and then he was caught in that Darstroke, I think
Very
it was.
tight.
I don't know if it was Darstroke or Anaconda. I never know the difference. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. He's out. It's out. He's out. And he got out of that. It was insane.
That's somebody to watch. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's somebody who's going to do really, really good.
He's
I
my
think.
favorite fighter of the week.
Yeah, he was incredible. And then the very next match, or the fight, was Jake Matthews. And he went against, Andre Filio.
Yeah.
Filio has like
I
quite a
always
bit of
say
momentum.
Andre Feely, but that's a different
This was his 4th fight of
2022.
2022, and it's only June. So I know he fought in April, May, June, and then I think January.
That's insane.
It's impressive when you do that, but now he's 2-2 those 4. So I don't know. Like, I always think if you could fight like once a month, you might be in the wrong weight class.
Oh, for sure. And he looked a lot smaller. And I remember I was like, I don't know. I can't tell. I'm like, maybe the other guy is just a lot bigger. I was like, oh my God, he looks so much smaller. And then when you're fighting, you know, every month, 3 months in a row, that means like you're not doing like a big weight cut, which you don't need to do a huge weight cut. But like if you're fighting
it's
like
tough to
every
be
4
undersized,
weeks,
unless you're like Israel Adesanya, that skilled.
Yeah. If you're fighting that often, or like, yeah, like I think Chimaev doesn't cut a lot of weight.
No, he cuts a lot of weight. Chimaev cuts a lot of weight.
I thought he didn't.
When he goes up, he doesn't.
Okay.
No, he cuts a lot of weight.
Okay. Then I was wrong. But there's a couple other fighters like that. But
yeah.
But yeah, it's like, okay, cool. What's your goal? If you're going to fight, if that's going to be your thing where you fight like 4 times in 6 months, you know, what's your goal? Are you giving yourself time to really fully prepare for that fight, specifically, not just like physically, but skill wise and mental preparation? And you know, it could, you get like, you think like, oh, I'm so cool, or like I'm good because I'm fighting this often. Well, now you're 2-2. That's not good for the longevity of your career. So it's like, I feel like there has to be some type of balance where you need to fight often. You can't be like one of those fighters that fights once a year, even twice.
4 times in 6 months. I mean, and he's really skilled. I like watching him fight. He's a good boxer. But 4 times in 6 months, I think is too much.
Yeah, because then maybe I don't remember his other loss, but it's like, you know, maybe if you took time to prepare a little bit more for each fight, then maybe you could have won those fights. I mean, he had good moments.
He definitely did.
So maybe I'm not taking anything away from the other guy, but I'm just saying I think unless you're like, hey, I'm, you know, if you're a guy and you're like, I'm 39, I just got in the UFC, like, fuck, I'm just going to make as much money quick as I can. If you don't think that you see yourself, you know, in line or moving up the ranks for the title, but it doesn't take much. Like, you know, if you signed a 4-fight contract, you're 2-2, but he probably re-signed, but you know what I mean? Like, you could easily get cut right away just because of that.
Yeah. We keep talking about him. Jake Matthews was the star. He looked absolutely amazing. But sometimes fighters will get in that groove. Like, I'm going to fight all the time. I could win. I get knockouts. I'm healthy. I fight all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of like learn your lesson. I think that happened to like Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland had that 1 year, spectacular year. I think he fought 5 times, but then he tried to do that again into the next year, and he had like a couple losses in a row. Then he took a decent amount of time off, and he looked great his last 1 or 2 fights.
I think when you're younger too, or new to the sport, if you go too much, and especially if you're winning, well, it's like, okay, well now, and this happened, perfect example, Kevin Holland, now you're in the top and you have no room to improve. You have no time to improve on your skills.
Right.
So for him, it was like, learn wrestling in 4 weeks. Well, maybe if you extended, but then I don't know, maybe you might not have made as much money, but maybe, you know, it's a gamble.
Yeah. I think it's good to be active, but I think 4 fights in a year, which would be twice as amount of time as this guy. It's only June. 4 fights in a year is tremendously active.
Yeah.
That's fighting every 3 months.
Mhm.
It's super, super
Yeah.
active. Just fighting once a month, I don't think is a good idea.
Yeah, I don't
But
think so either.
that's not to take away from Jake Matthews. He looked incredible. Then we had Wei Lee and Johanna.
That's so sad.
We were both sad about that.
We like didn't talk for like a couple
Yeah.
minutes after the fight.
I wanted Johanna to win so bad, but
It's so funny. Like I remember right before my brother texted me, he was like, "Who do you think?" And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I'm so biased. I just like love Johanna so much, and I just like want her to win. And I think it's one of those things where like when it happened, and then she made her retirement, you're like, I knew she wasn't that into it anymore, but. She's so fucking good and skilled that, I mean, she had good moments in that fight, before. And it's like, she is so good that, she could have won. And then you'd be like, then she would be fighting for the title next. And it could have went totally different. It's just at that level, it's just, everything matters. And I know that was her first fight in over like 2.5 years. That's
such a long
that's
time.
so hard to do at that when you're at the top level of the sport. If you're at the bottom level of the sport, you can keep going away. And she could say what she wants. She trained for this fight for 5 months, but the reality is she didn't train for a year and a half or
Right.
almost 2 years, because she was doing right after COVID then happened, and she was doing something like American Idol or America's Got Talent in Poland. She was like a head judge. That's a full-time job. She's like, I mean, if you follow her on Instagram, she's like a tremendous businesswoman.
Well,
She's
that's what I was gonna
doing
say.
things all the time. I think for a while people were assuming oh, she's not going to come back. She's doing so many other things, which is amazing. Most fighters don't ever get the opportunity to move on to that. But I think she still wants it. It's a tough thing to do to it's easy to be like, hey, you're making so much money, you're doing all this stuff, you don't have to fight, you're probably making way more money doing that than fighting, why do it? But then it's like, when you're at the top of the sport, you love it, you're not there just
She's
for
a competitor.
money. Yeah And she probably she's beat Carla Esparza, now she's the champ, and it's tough. She would have won this, it's so tough. But
yeah, but she had such an amazing career for such a long time. And then, the last few years have been rough, but like you said, when you're at the very, very top, to get one win is really tough when you're only fighting the second ranked to the first ranked championships. Rose a couple times, Wei Lee a couple times.
She fought
If you win
Valentina.
if you win any of those, you're spectacular. But, she's definitely one of my all-time favorite fighters. And she just seems so likable. So it's cool. I hope she stays around the UFC, maybe does something like their international events or something, but she'll probably move on bigger, better.
From what I heard, in Poland, she's like a mega celebrity, in tabloids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just love her. Me and her are internet friends. Even we have each other's number on WhatsApp, and before my fight, she'll send me a note, a voice
That's
note,
cool.
saying congratulations. It's one of those things we never really met, but we're friends. But
I have friends like that.
yeah, isn't that funny how that happens?
Yeah.
And then when you meet, you're like, hey, what's up? You're like, oh wait, it's been a couple of years and I never met you before.
I actually had that happen at the Beat the Streets event.
Oh, with Ashnell?
Yeah, Anthony Ashnell. I've always we've exchanged on social media a lot, and we walked past each other in the lobby, and he was said hi to me, and I was like, oh hey, and I was like, oh wait, I never met this guy.
Isn't that
And
funny
then we
when that
kind of
happens?
introduced ourselves, but we've been friends on social media for a long time. It's funny. But yeah, you're definitely like that with her.
I remember when this was maybe my first year in the UFC, but this is when UFC just got bought by whatever the new owners. I don't even know. I am not IMG.
I don't know.
Whatever. They just got new owners, and they did it was an athlete summit where all the fighters got invited to Vegas. We stayed at the Red Rock. They did it was so cool. They had Mark Cuban, actually Kobe Bryant spoke. We had all these different guest speakers talking to the fighters about different things, moving on from athletes to business and just a whole bunch of stuff. And then they always had things at night, and it was fun. It was basically just like camp for fighters, but it was cool because that was the first time. And for me, I was only in the UFC for maybe a year at that point, maybe a little longer. But when you go, it's just all the fighters there, and you're like, hey, what's up? And it's there's so many. I remember there was so many fighters that there's some that you're like, oh, we're friends, we're Instagram friends. Like we kind of like each other's stuff a little bit, all the time. And you're like, well, we never actually met. It's so kind of weird. You're like, but why is it that all of a sudden, like, we like each other? You know what I mean? Like I have some like
and not just like you follow each other on social media. You're like,
like we comment on each other's stuff. There's like a couple, like for whatever reason, there's like a couple girls. I'm like, oh, I'm friends with them, and I'm like, I never met them, but
yeah,
you just kind of gravitate to and see that you guys both like each other.
It's funny how that works. But yeah, there's obviously a spectacular finish too by Wei Li. It was crazy because when I think of that fight, I think of how good Wei Li's wrestling was. Like it was just incredible takedowns, just so powerful and strong. But she won with like a spectacular standing KO.
Yeah.
So she's really, really good. I think that if she gets title shot, I think she's, a pretty tough matchup for Carla Esparza.
Yeah, I think so too.
But there's probably scenarios where Rose could fight her a third time for the belt.
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy. I'd love to see it. Then we had Valentina and Santos. Watching that fight, I scored it. I thought, and I'd like to watch it again, but I thought it was a clear-cut 3-2. I thought Santos clearly won the first 3 rounds. Valentina won the last 2 rounds. And I thought it was just going to be clear-cut 48-47 on all the judges' scorecards. But it was wild scoring. Someone scored the fight 49-46. That means 4 rounds for Valentina, 1 round for Santos. That's like not even a close fight at all. 4-1 is not even competitive. I don't know how you could have scored it like that.
Yeah, it was funny because and
I wanted Valentina to win. I'm not being like.
I was kind of like teasing. I mean, I was definitely not biased. I really didn't care. I kind of went back and forth like during the fight, like watching it, like when Valentina kept engaging in the clinch. I'm like, don't engage in the clinch. Don't do that. And I'm like cheering for her. And then when like Santos was on the back, I'm like, get the choke. So like, I was like, wait, I don't know who I want to win. I'm like, and I didn't have a favorite going into it. I think, everyone kind of likes the upset, but, I actually didn't want Santos to win just because then I'm like, oh, if she wins, they're going to do a rematch, whatever.
Well, that's what my friend messaged me during the fight. He's like, we're rooting for Santos on this, right? I was like, actually, no, because my thought process was if Santos won, Valentina's definitely getting an immediate rematch, 100%. Then Valentina wins the immediate rematch. They're definitely doing a rubber match. That would I'm not saying you're going to get a title shot either way, but if those things happened, which would be very likely, that would put it to 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a decent possibility they'll run that one back anyway.
I mean, obviously I don't want that to happen for me selfishly, but like I was surprised if I was Santos, I would have been like, she seems so nice and sweet that she was just like quiet and like didn't say anything. I would have been like, dude, I think I won that fight. I want a rematch right now. And like she didn't say that. Obviously the language barrier and stuff. And she just went through a fight. She might not have really realized what happened, but I was actually like teasing when like the fight was over and Valentina puts her hands up and she's like smiling and doing all this. And I was like, and Santos just gets up kind of straight faced, doesn't know emotions. And I'm like, oh, Santos doesn't know that she won, or I think she just wasn't like, she's just not that type. Like Carla Esparza's like that, very like stone cold face. And Valentina's like smiling the whole time. I'm like, damn, she's really trying to fake it till she makes it. Like, and I was like, she's got to know. Like, I was like, she's got to know. Fuck, I don't think I won that. Because even her coaches were saying, even both corners were saying, we're all on the same page as us, that Valentina was down the first 3. And because her coaches were saying, you cannot give this up. You need to go for a finish.
Right. And Santos coaches were like, we got 3 in the bag.
Yeah.
And usually I don't like when people say that because then, you could potentially, slow up too much, lose those 2.
But Santos didn't slow up.
No, she didn't. But I didn't even think that was a mistake that they said you had 3 in the bag.
I
would have said the same thing. Like, you got 3 in the bag. You're doing great. Keep doing it. But because usually, like, even when you fought Rebus, I thought you won all 3 rounds. But I remember going into the 3rd.
You don't know.
Like, it's probably 1-1. You got to go.
Yeah.
Because someone definitely had it 1-1, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, so I don't know. I wouldn't say it was like the worst decision I've ever seen, but I just scored it a different way. I'd have to watch that first round again.
Well, I just remember, like, I don't remember exactly the round, because when it's a 5-round fight, it's hard to keep everything together, especially when it's competitive. But I remember after the first round, I was like, Santos won that, right? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, no, I think she definitely won. But I was like, I don't know. I was like, I hope like a judge wouldn't give it to Valentina. And I was like, no, right? Like, but I was like,
no
I was
way.
like, I bet you one judge gave it to Valentina just because like that's kind of how it always goes. And yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. I just like, I saw that.
Well, that had to be the controversial round, I would imagine. Well, no, the one person said 4-1.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't really get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then the only thing I kind of was like, ugh, kind of like cringe was when they were like, right away they asked like Valentina, they were like, was that a tougher fight than you thought? Right away. I thought this is like kind of why, I don't know why. I'm not like, obviously I'm not trying to be like a hater. Like obviously she's so fucking good. She beat me, I get it. But like, she was like, yeah, the travel, it was 30 hours to get
Instant.
I was like, bitch, like stop making an excuse. It just sounds so lame. Even if like, first of all, she traveled too. Everyone on the card traveled. So like her taking your back and almost choking you out had nothing to do with the travel to Singapore.
But
like,
even if it did, that's part of it.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
But she's really good, and she made really good adjustments. I thought her coach said no more wrestling, like stay away from the wrestling. And
then
once she did that, it
she-
wasn't really a competitive fight.
That's
But
why
I don't think you could wrestle with that girl in the upper body.
No.
She's too good there.
But that's why I think if they have a rematch, I think Valentina wins most rounds.
And DC said the same thing. He's like, she'll make the adjustments.
Especially with how technical and stuff she is.
If she just strikes and doesn't engage, because a lot of it she was engaging in the clinch.
Almost everyone was.
And then was getting horsed
she was
around.
engaging in the clinch, and then
because Valentina is great there.
Yeah. And I think she's just not used to other people, reversing those positions on her, but once she made the adjustment, when they would clinch, she would throw an elbow and back up. And then she
did great.
And she was like almost knocking her out.
But going for those headlocks, I'm like, because throwing a headlock, the throw is a big part of it. But then the next thing, it's going to be a scramble. Because for a split second, it's almost like a 50-50 position.
Right.
Like you and Rebus, like you have like a hook lock, like, it's 50-50. Where this girl is so explosive and strong, she was winning those scrambles pretty easily.
Yeah. I think it didn't matter. Valentina won anyway, but I thought Valentina was like only won the third or fourth and fifth round, last two rounds. And then the fifth round, she was like kind of rocking her and getting her wobbly.
Right.
And then she went for a takedown and got on top. And I'm like, I feel like you have more of a chance of finishing her standing up and just
especially because she had such a bad injury on her eye.
And she was wobbling her with strikes, and then she took her down, just like held her on top. Then I said that, but I'm like, well, she could get the crucifix and get a finish that she did to me and Andrade pretty well. So I was like, maybe she could get it, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what they're gonna do. I didn't really hear. I didn't hear like the press conference and stuff after, because I think if Juliana Pena wins. And the rematch with Amanda Nunes, I think Valentina's gonna go up. And she never says, she always says 125, 125, 125. Like, and then this one she goes, I don't know, bantamweight. But I think if Juliana Pena wins the rematch, she's gonna go there. So then I don't know what will happen. I kind of think that like Santos would get a rematch.
I think that she will most likely get a rematch. Yeah. You never know.
I think she but
then again, maybe Valentina will be like, no, I'm not doing it. But I think you kind of have to. And not even. I would, for our situation, it would be better if they didn't.
Oh, of course.
But really, if you understand how it works, you pretty much have to run that one back.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of fights for you, but you have to. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the next fight, Glover and Yuri? I don't know.
I'm like, yeah, to both.
That was, I always say like recency bias is so difficult because I say it a lot.
Sickest
that was the best fight I've ever seen.
It was so good. And I just hated that, like, first of all, everyone has such a soft spot for Glover. Like, How can you not like him? And just for that, because that fight was going all crazy back and forth so much, the entire fight, every round for the entire round, all of them, like going back and forth, it was just so crazy. And then it's just kind of good for Yuri, but it kind of sucked for Glover. Like 30 seconds left. You got, you know,
it's 28 seconds.
It's like, come on. But I mean, it's still got obviously fight of the night. Do you think they'll do a rematch?
I would love to see a rematch. I would really love to see it because it was probably the best fight I've ever seen. And I never remember a fight that I couldn't score one of those rounds.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was 4-0
Every round was exactly
Glover
the
or
same,
4-0 Yuri. I had no idea. It was, to me, you couldn't score it.
I think that if you give the first round to either one, say you give the first round to Glover, then you give the second, third, fourth round to Glover. Because I mean, each round was almost exactly the same.
But like Yuri was on top almost as much as Glover.
Yeah.
There was so much grappling, and he must be so tremendously strong and explosive because
his
he
grappling
doesn't even do a guard. He like lays on his back and like explodes out and like back arches out of things. I thought, I was like, oh, he's gonna get exhausted doing this, but he didn't. He was giving up mount and just blasting
his
out.
like jiu-jitsu grappling technique is effort.
It's just effort.
It's just effort and heart. And I think he even said it at the after or something about him. Like, I just had a heart. And I was like, he tried. I mean, both of them did. You can't say one or the other, but they tried so hard. Like, it's the world title. Right. Of course they did. But no, any of those positions, you would have totally understood if they couldn't get up.
Yeah. The one time he was in that arm triangle, and I think that's Glover's best submission. He does that to a lot of people over the years. And that was tight.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. But he fucking got out, then he got up to his feet and put him down. It was such a spectacular fight. I would have liked to seen it go to the scorecards. Just not even that I care who won. I just would have liked it to. It deserved to go the distance.
I think going into going into the fifth round, I think they showed the judges scorecard, and I think they had Glover winning.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? I could have given the other, you know.
Yeah, no, they had Glover winning, and one person had it a draw.
Yeah.
After 4. But yeah, incredible fight. Like you said, I don't know what's gonna happen. I would like them to do a rematch. I think it would be cool, but there's other fights. Jan Blachowicz or Ankalaev, the Dagestani.
Yeah.
But I kind of think that for Yuri, Glover is the most difficult matchup because he's such a good grappler with also durable and good boxing. I think that's probably the hardest matchup for him because anybody else, and if you can't take that guy down, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But really, really fun fight. Really cool. We had a couple of questions. Someone asked, what are our thoughts on retirement after a loss? Obviously, they're talking about announcing retirement after a loss. Obviously, they're talking about Johanna. What do you think about that?
I go back and forth. Part of me, I'm like, don't do it there. And it kind of sucked. For as much as I'm all about Johanna and I don't really care about Weili just because I'm like her so much. It took away from Weili's spectacular, amazing win. Even the UFC on their Instagram, they didn't even post anything about her. They posted she won, but then it was just all about Johanna. But I get it. Plus, too, it's a new wave. This is a new wave that people don't understand. Women's MMA is so new that we've only experienced very few female fighters retiring. Guys, it happens all the time.
That's true.
And the ones that you see retire, you don't see
that's true
beloved ones. You've seen I remember
Ronda.
Yeah, Ronda, but I don't know.
She didn't do anything.
She didn't announce it like that. You know what I mean? And Ronda is such a megastar, and everyone she had fans and she was a megastar. But I don't know. I feel like Johanna is a little bit different. It was the next generation,
more
so
more
love fans,
but
not just
Ronda
impressed.
was a bigger, more people.
Yeah,
but devoted,
more passionate
fans. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think that it's a new thing, and it's I think because everyone grew up with Johanna being the champ, you don't realize wow, when she was a champ, she was in her 20s. Now she's like 35. So when she says like, oh, it's time for me to move on, I want to have a family, people are just like, oh, okay, oh, that sucks. Like, she should still fight. It's like, well, she's 35 if she wants to, and she's been doing it for 20 years is so long. So it kind of sucks for women because yes, you can have a family and then go back to fighting. Many people do that. But when you're 35, when you've devoted your whole life to fighting, you don't have enough time. Not to say it can't be done, but typically you don't have enough time to have a family and go back, especially if you're already at the top level. You don't have the time to take off for that much and get back and compete when you have and it is a hard thing for fighters to deal with. And I think that fighters doing it now, they don't have anyone to look up to see how they did it because it's never been done before. It's like the new, you know what I mean? Like girls that are like 20 years old now will see what other girls did and how they dealt with it and stuff to kind of, to go through it. Like, so for Johanna, and it definitely sucks for her because she probably wants to have a kid and wants to like start a family and move on in her life. But like, it sucks. Like, why do you have to like let go of what you like for it,
Yeah. I was thinking about, because there's an interesting point about Ronda and Johanna, how like kind of we're at the same time, but Ronda had people that were like following her and she was like such like an event when she fought, but she lost one time and everyone fucking turned on her, like said how terrible she is. She's garbage, overrated, no, all negative. Where Johanna was beloved in victory and defeat.
Yes.
She's 2-5 her last 7 fights, but everyone still absolutely loves her. She
just got like knocked out and everyone's just like standing ovation. Yeah. I mean, great. It was the thing, but yeah, I don't know. And I didn't like when she said, and you never know what's going on in people's head, but when she said like, oh, I said if I lost, I was going to retire. I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah,
I think if that's your mindset going in, you shouldn't fight. And that's now.
I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing if you say win or lose, this is my last fight.
Yeah.
Because that has to happen at some point. But I don't even like that. But say if I lose, this is my last fight. I don't love that. I don't think that's great.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But
yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, part of me wants to be like, okay, if you lost, you shouldn't retire in the cage because it takes away from the other opponent. But if you've done this your whole life and that's your stage, you want to like make the announcement in the cage, and that is like a very special moment. Whereas if some fighters if she would have just walked off and then, on Monday morning posted on Instagram, like, hey, I retire, it's not the same moment. So I don't know. I go both ways.
Yeah, it definitely does take away from Wei Li, but
she'll be fine.
She'll have other moments. And I think normally I would have an issue with it if it's just some like random fighter on the roster and they do that, like take their gloves off and try to like, who cares? But I feel that Johanna deserved that. She earned that.
Yeah.
That right. Like, and it was like so heartfelt. I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah.
I think it was good. She absolutely
deserved that moment. Yeah.
Deserved that moment.
She's done so much, like not just for women's MMA, but just MMA in general.
Yeah. Well, when they talk about like her first fight with Wei Li, they say one of the greatest MMA fights of all time. Like they don't say like women's,
right?
MMA, like one of the greatest fights of all time.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. You know who else is like her, kind of like where they loved in victory and defeat is Tony Ferguson.
Yes.
Like Tony Ferguson's fans, like he's got a huge fan base and he's lost like 4 or 5 in a row.
Nate Diaz.
It's just like, Nate Diaz. Those are the ones who really have like valuable fans where, win or loss, win or lose, they love them.
In a way now, like Conor kind of has that too. He didn't in the beginning. He had the Ronda thing where like almost everyone wanted him to lose. But like some of those fighters are like, or Masvidal.
Yeah, Masvidal has that for sure.
Like
too.
when you look at their records for the last 5 years, you're like, people don't realize like, oh, this is their record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's a special thing to have. It's crazy.
And you just either have it or you don't.
You either have it or you don't. Like, imagine if you lost like 3 in a row, like how much like people would hate you.
I won 4 in a row and people hate me and say I suck. So it's like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do we got? Anything else?
Nope, nothing else.
You have no updates for us, I feel like.
In terms of what?
Life.
That
sounds
not
not
really.
really.
No.
All right, slow week, but we're staying positive.
Oh, exciting. We have some new merch coming out. It will be out very shortly, but it's really cool stuff. I'm super excited about it. I think that everyone will like it. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're almost at a milestone that I've been excited about, and I promise these guys we do something special.
We
when
don't know
we
what
hit
that
it.
is yet.
So please subscribe to the YouTube.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for listening.
See you next week.